my family there. The current president of Somalia was actually a former Marine himself. He was there while I was there. He was our interpreter, interpreting the different language. I do believe that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So it's a very different world, and I wouldn't go back unless it was just by myself.
Okay. If you could change anything you did during the war, would you?
I don't believe so. I came out fine. I don't believe I have any issues. No physical, anyways. Maybe a little more crazy, but that's normal. And you keep, as long as you keep those memories, it teaches you who you are, who you're going to become.
Would you share some of your memories with us?
Absolutely. One night while we were there, matter of fact, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I usually tell this story. It's a very good campfire story to all my friends. And I got stuck on top of the hill, and if you ever look at Somalia and you see the Mogadishu airport, okay, in between the Mogadishu airport and the sea, there's a small hill. Well, on top of that hill is where we were basically camped. And I had the .50 caliber machine gun that night, which I had to lug up the hill almost every night and place it up on top into the what we call the pit, or the firing position that we had dug up. And it had night vision scopes, and it was very heavy. While I was up there, since it was St. Patrick's Day, I brought with me a little, canister of whiskey, which was a no-no. I should not have done it, and as I found out later. But during the nighttime, I had a couple people come and check on me. Sergeant McCall, who was the sergeant in charge of the watch that night, came up, and as he was there, he says, "Well, Lance Corporal Fitzpatrick, what's going on?" I said, "Well, happy St. Patrick's Day," and I handed him the canister. Well, Sergeant McCall did not leave, so he stayed there with me. Next would be Lieutenant O'Brien, who was the lieutenant in charge of the watch that night. He was from New York. He came up to the hole, asked how we were doing, and said fine, and decided he was going to stay also. So finally, the XO, or our executive officer, wondering where everybody was, made his way all the way up to the top of the hill. His name was Lieutenant McCarthy. He was from New Hampshire. Needless to say, he did not leave either. So you had 4 Irishmen all on top of this hill on St. Patrick's Day, who got in trouble the next day by the Captain Snyder, yes, who was a very nice guy, who took really pity on me, being the youngest of them all.
Well, do you when you keep in touch with your friends, do you visit them all the time?
Oh, I try to, yes.
Have you had like a big reunion?
We haven't had that yet, but it's actually in the works.
Oh.
There's a lot of guys still in the military. They're still in, matter of fact, they're in charge, which is amazing. Because when they were, Lance Corporals are 18, 19 years old, I wouldn't have put them in charge of anything. But it's pretty exciting to know and to see that everybody's doing well and still out there.
You told us that you worked your way up to be a corporal.
Yes.
How was that journey? How did you get to
it was more of a time in service and a time of grade. It was I did do a couple promotional boards, but unfortunately with the promotional boards, you get promoted on the second day of the month. And then it comes down into timing with the Marine Corps, whether you want to be promoted on the second or the first. If you just go in time of service, time and grade, you'll get it on the first, which is a day earlier, which makes you a senior to the guy who got promoted meritoriously. So it actually at one point came down to just waiting and completing all my studies. We have what was called MCIs. And they were mandatory courses and mandatory books that you had to read to advance to the next stage.
When you were being shot at in Somalia, were you ever next to someone who was shot and was wounded?
Yes, matter of fact, my good friend Sergeant McCall was shot in the arm and wounded in the arm.
And how did you feel during that?
At first, a little surprised because, as I said, it was a little naive that he actually caught one. We were making fun, and I think it was more of a bravado where you make fun of the enemy, in this case the Somalis, whoever that clan or that section of town would be. And the best defense was being ignorant towards it. That he wasn't out to kill you. He just got lucky and hit Sergeant McCall. So to me, it was more of a, they can't hit you anyways because they're bad shots.
Yeah. Do you have any strong feelings or deep dislike towards Somalia or Somalians at all?
No. The general population, matter of fact, in any war, in any government, don't have the luxury of freedom. To them, it's life or death. To hold a grudge against them would not be right. They weren't the ones that were being pushed in the direction that they were being pushed.
Do you have any memories of conversing or talking to a Somalian or?
Oh yes. Everybody understands English.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my children this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Every single person understands English, and the one thing they understand is dollar bill. It doesn't matter if they're 4 years old or 80 years old. They all understand dollar bill.
What did you do?
The children in Somalia were up at the gates, at the main gates at the Mogadishu airport, would always gather. I mean, that was a mainstay because they knew that there was people there, people from other countries that could actually give money out, and they would give candy and we had a big brief the night before we went into Somalia that we weren't allowed to give them what's called meals ready to eat. That's the meals that we have to eat. Due to the fact that in one of those packages or one of those meals is 3,000 calories. You can actually have one a day and survive. Due to the eating habits and the starvation that was happening in Somalia, if one of the Somalis were to eat one, it could do really, really irreparable harm to their intestines.
Mm-hmm. Is there any Somalian you remember specifically, or any child?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
Okay. Let's see. Why do you think the government chose to call Somalia a conflict instead of a war?
My personal opinion is it was based on a financial decision. At that time, not only were we in Somalia, we were just coming off of the first Gulf War. We also were a year later in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is Sarajevo in that area. So there were many different conflicts. Matter of fact, we went back to Haiti the year after that. There was too many things that we were getting involved in. To call them all or declare them all wars would not be, wouldn't suit the government's purposes at that time.
Okay. Let's see. Is there anything you want to tell us about your time serving? Like anything specific that you think would have an effect on us? Like any memory,
your fondest
any learning lesson,
learning lesson, I guess, is for anybody who was going to serve in the military, was thinking of serving in the military. I thought it was one of the greatest things for myself. I do think it is a duty or not so much an obligation to serve your country, but to show your appreciation that you live in this country. As I explained to my wife that, I've seen a lot, especially all over the world. I've been deployed Somalia, Bosnia, Haiti, along with over into Japan,